Welcome everyone, it's Ryan here from the London Craftsman, and today I'm going to be talking about my chop saw lift. The lift that you can see right there, the one that goes up and down on the scissor lift. I'm going to be talking a little bit about it, going to be showing you how it all works, why I decided to go down this route. Yeah, basically anything I could think of, I'll try and tell you about it. So without further ado, let's get cracking. There she is in all her glory. She's in the up position at the moment. Hatch is up, extraction is on. The extraction and the power all goes underneath the bench, runs down through there, runs underneath the bench. Power runs into here because that power is powering my compressor and my thicknesser. So yeah, power there, the extraction runs all the way underneath into the extraction section. So what we have here is a little section that is just for the valves, and it's dedicated. This was the Cyclone box, but we found that it was getting blocked, so it needs a little bit of tweaking. It's just a drawer at the moment. See, we've got all our power at the back, we've got the hose coming in from the Hoover, all our extraction runs into these valves. I think they're ball valves. So down means it's on, so if that's compressed, if that's down like that, it means it's on. So we've got the chop saw, we've got left-hand power tool, we've got right-hand power tool, and we've got a table saw. We've got the chop saw down, which means it's on. You can see the hose running down. That one is running all the way to the chop saw. So we know whenever we turn that chop saw on, it's gonna suck up all the dust. Let's follow this hose. So this hose runs all the way to the Hoover, which is here. This is a Makita version, and it's automatic, as you can see on the switch. It's on the drill button, so when you turn something on, it turns on. And that extension is really just plugged in to the back of that box that I just showed you, and that feeds all different bits and pieces. So the hose here that comes off the Hoover, that runs all the way down and feeds into this, which feeds all the valves. So that's coming from the Hoover, right? So whenever anything is being used, any power tool, obviously this is going to turn on automatically. We want something a little bit bigger. We find that this is clogging up a little bit too quickly for our liking. Might get something a bit bigger. I'm not happy with anything being out here, so it needs to live in this cupboard. But that is the extraction side there and there. When I was talking about left-hand power tool, right-hand power tool, we've got holes on the top of our bench. So yeah, we can plug in a CTS hose as we do here, and our power tools will just run off these hoses. Got one for the left hand, one for the right hand, because we've got two of these hoses. Going off track now, because I just wanted to show you how the extraction works. So whenever we turn this on, you can hear the Hoover turns on. So yeah, so what we basically did is we've taken the doors off here. This is all enclosed. But we fitted a scissor lift to make this go up and down, and it's a scissor lift for a dirt bike. Not much, about 120 pounds for this. And it was a bit of engineering to make it all work. Obviously, I designed this whole workbench, and I designed it and I built it with Sean. But ultimately, I wanted this in, not taking too much space. I wanted it in the center of the bench so I can cut equal pieces both sides. And ultimately, this big chunky saw, which is a Makita, so yeah, it had to fit this Makita. So I bought this. It's quite a big, substantial one. It does everything. It goes up to 60 degrees, and it fits in there nicely. Obviously, you need to push the hatch up. That's just manual, and it's very tight tolerances. We did have to modify the little knob that comes here. We had to cut it down and make it fit. But in the grand scheme of things, it works. It's a bit dusty. It needs tweaking a little bit. But ultimately it works, yeah? So let's take the extraction off and show you it in action. So this little handle here is what makes it lock into position. So as it's up, so it doesn't go back down over time, because it's a piston, it locks it into position. So let's just turn it. So basically it's like a little key, and that clicks into there like so. and then you just give it a half turn. And yeah, just let it do its thing. Obviously, the more you turn it, there we go. Like I said, needs tweaking, but it works. It's mainly just the hoses that need tweaking, they rub. And you need to have the saw in its furthest position, as you can see. It needs to be there to position its weight equally over the scissor lift. Otherwise, it starts leaning back. But anyway, that's things that I need to tweak and make work. Let's put the hatch down. Yeah, so it's concealed. Then we'd be closing those doors if they were on. That's how it looks in there. And that is in its compressed state, the scissor lift. And this scissor lift was perfect. It had exactly the right rise and fall that I needed. Yeah, let's lift that back up and show you how I pump it up. So I'm not particularly happy right now about the way it pumps up and down. Yeah, it is quite a bit of a faff at the moment, just because, there we go, let's lock it. There we go. Yeah, just because the pump, the handle, hits the bottom. So let's lift it up. Right, so forget about how many times I'm pumping it now, because it's a simple fix. What it is this handle here is hitting the bottom of this carcass. So as you can see, I've recessed the legs to give me another 60mm worth of depth in there. Yeah, so that's dropped down, which means this doesn't depress as far down as it should. This realistically should lift up in a maximum of 8 pumps. I've done it before, and it goes up maybe 2-3 inches every pump. So as soon as I've solved that, I've taken this off, made one out of birch that's got a bigger curve, and it doesn't hit the bottom. Problem solved. So forget about me pumping it up. But yeah, here it is in action. Okay, so last couple of pumps. There we go, and it just goes into its little spot nicely underneath. There's the cutout. On that side, it runs along the carcass side as support and as a guide. This side is a little cutout. Yeah, and we built this frame. So once we cut the carcass opening, we built this framework, a bit like a door opening, I guess, or a door lining. We built one of those in, so as soon as it pushes up, it locates to the underside. So the cutout we reused as the base. So basically what you see there is the actual carcass. We just reuse that as it's pushed back in, it locates back in its original position, then hits up against the lining. Yeah, and there it is. It's nice and rigid. Look, I try and wobble it. It doesn't wobble, nothing whatsoever. Really solid. And that is it. Let's just undo the clip. And chop saw is in its position. And then we simply put the hose back on. And we're ready to rock and roll. And that is it. Other accessories that we've built for it are these little strips. So we can cut down and we do repetitive cuts. We've got a short version, which is the same length as this, and we've got a longer version here, which is 2.4. So if we're doing any longer cuts on this side, we can. Obviously a bit of a mess in here at the moment. But we haven't completed this either. Story of my life. I was going to put little dowels here, one there, so they just locate into the dog holes, and they'll just literally go clip wherever you want it. But I haven't committed to doing that yet because I just need to do a little tweak on this, get this pedal done. Yeah, like I said, a million tiny little things to do. But this is very useful as well. We've got these little guides that slide up and down, and these little channels take the tape measure, the adhesive tape measure. Not sticking that on yet again because I'm not finished. So yeah, it's fantastic. And we haven't used it a great deal. It does work perfectly. It's a lovely, lovely saw. and it works well in our bench because this bench is huge. It's 3.6 by 1.6, so somebody could still be using that section. Someone could be using the table saw, someone could be using the router table. Loads of bits while you're still chopping away with this. All these handles were cut up using that chop saw. Yeah, it works really, really well. So what else can I tell you? Well, planning to make it fit was the hardest part for me, getting it in that section. Obviously, looking on the website, I wanted to see the opening, size that I needed, so I needed to know the product size. Ultimately, I took a gamble and I bought it before I even, I just bought it as I was designing this, going, okay, I'm gonna have to make it fit no matter what I do. And I did. We did have to modify it a little bit bigger. It's gone slightly past halfway of the bench. Which meant this part of the frame, as you can see, these frames here are the ultimate workbench. They run all the way through, like 1 frame, 2 frames, 3 frames, and the carcass runs all the way through. So we did have to cut that away just there to allow us to have that depth. Width was fine. When that's closed and it's on the scissor lift and it's dropped down, it's all right by about 1.5 inches. But we did have to pinch a little bit of space by rebaiting the bottom of the carcass. And yeah, it just worked. And I just had to take a plunge on buying this before because I had to open the box, take measurements of it in every angle, at full tilt, at leant over, and just make sure it's all gonna work. See, right now I can just literally loosen this and turn it, and it will still work absolutely perfectly to the 60 degrees. Whereas if I didn't test that and take all my measurements in every single position, I didn't know whether it was going to work in, up, down, whatever. So happy about that. So if anyone's got any questions, just fire them at me. Happy to answer any if you've got any queries. But ultimately, I'll try and leave a link to the chop saw and the scissor lift that I used to make this all possible. But other than that, I love you and leave you. Take it easy. Good rest of the day. Ciao for now.